There is something in your home that you can't see, but you can feel it, and maybe you've been ignoring it for weeks. It might be the exhaustion that hits the moment you walk into your bedroom. It might be that unexplained irritation, or the strange silence, too heavy. Have you ever noticed that some places feel light, and others seem to drain you? Now think, if emotions leave marks on people, why wouldn't they leave marks on spaces? Arguments, anxiety, repeated fears, obsessive thoughts. All of that generates energy, and energy doesn't disappear. It builds up. For thousands of years, long before any scientific explanation, people already knew this. And when they felt that something was off in the air, they did one simple thing. They burned an herb. But it wasn't superstition. It was a response to something invisible. And today you're going to understand what really happens when the smoke begins to rise. Because maybe the weight you feel isn't psychological. It might be energetic, and there is a way to move it. Let's observe a curious pattern. North America, medieval Europe, ancient Mediterranean, Latin America, cultures that never met. And yet, all of them burned plants to cleanse spaces. Coincidence? Tell me what you think in the comments. Today, the most well-known herb is white sage. It became famous for its ability to clear negative energy. Some modern studies suggest that the smoke from certain herbs may release negative ions, helping purify the air. But what's interesting isn't just that. It's that long before any study, people already felt the effect. They described it as driving away evil spirits, the air feeling lighter, the house breathing, the feeling that something left. And it's not just sage. Rosemary was burned in hospitals during the Middle Ages to ward off disease. Rosemary wasn't just a kitchen herb. In the Middle Ages, when epidemics swept through entire cities in Europe, doctors and healers had extremely limited resources. There were no antibiotics. There was no knowledge about bacteria like we have today. But they observed patterns. They noticed that certain odors were associated with illness. And they believed in the miasma theory, the idea that contaminated air caused disease. To fight this, they burned aromatic herbs. Among them, rosemary was one of the most valued. Hospitals, makeshift infirmaries, and even courtrooms were fumigated with rosemary branches. Not just for the pleasant aroma, but because they believed it purified the air and kept harmful influences away. During plague outbreaks in Europe, records indicate that people carried sprigs of rosemary with them as a form of protection. Today we know that rosemary has antimicrobial and antioxidant properties. Its essential oil contains compounds such as cineol and rosmarinic acid, which have a purifying effect. They didn't know the chemical names, but they knew the effect. The environment seemed more breathable. The smell of death lessened. The air felt more alive. And maybe that's exactly why rosemary earned a reputation as spiritual armor. Because in times of collective fear, it represented something rare: protection. And it is highly recommended, when burned in your home, to bring joy and happiness. This is a very special plant. Rue was called the herb of grace, used against envy and the evil eye. Rue carries an ancient and powerful symbolism. In medieval Europe and parts of the Mediterranean, it was known as the herb of grace. Its very name in Latin, Ruta graveolens, appears in ancient texts associated with spiritual protection. Priests used it to sprinkle holy water throughout spaces, believing it strengthened the power of purification, a shield of protection. But it was in popular traditions that Rue gained its strongest reputation. It was used against envy, against the evil eye, against that heavy energy that arises when someone looks at you with negative intent. In many Latin American and Mediterranean cultures, when someone suddenly felt tired, irritable, or had an unexplained headache, it was said to be the evil eye. And the solution? A Rue bath, from the neck down, or a sprig placed behind the ear, or a light fumigation in the space. Interestingly, Rue has a strong, almost aggressive aroma. It is not a gentle herb, and maybe that is symbolic. It is not made to please. It is made to repel. That is why, over the centuries, it earned the reputation of a silent guardian, not to attract but to protect. And when rue is burned, something changes. It is not a delicate smoke. It is intense, direct, penetrating. It does not enter a space asking permission. It asserts its presence. Traditionally, burning rue was a gesture of rupture. A rupture with accumulated envy, with invisible tension, with energies that seemed to stick. In many old homes, when arguments became frequent or when someone fell ill without a clear cause, the first reaction was not to discuss the problem. It was to light rue. It was believed that its smoke broke what was forming in the energetic field of the home. Today, we can interpret this in a symbolic and even psychological way. Rue has an aroma that awakens the senses. It activates. It cuts through inertia. It is active protection. Garlic was hung on doors as spiritual protection. Garlic may be one of the oldest forms of spiritual protection in human history. Long before it became an essential kitchen ingredient, it was already treated as a shield. In medieval Europe, Central Asia, the Mediterranean, and parts of the Middle East, heads of garlic were hung on the doors of homes, not as decoration, but as a barrier. Folk witches, midwives, and healers knew something that was passed down from generation to generation. Garlic not only strengthened the body, it strengthened the energetic field. Its strong smell was not seen as inconvenient. It was seen as a weapon. It was believed that ill-intentioned spirits, envy, and dense energies could not withstand its intense vibration. It is interesting to note that garlic is a plant that grows protected by layers, skin upon skin, as if it symbolically carried the idea of shielding. In many traditions of folk magic, placing garlic on the door meant declaring, "This house is protected." Some witches burned dried garlic peels in more aggressive cleansing rituals, especially when they felt there was repetitive conflict, unexplained illnesses, or visitors who left the space feeling heavy. Garlic repels spirits of bad omen. It's no coincidence the legend of Dracula exists. And there is something curious. Today we know that garlic has extremely potent antimicrobial properties. It fights fungi, bacteria, and viruses. In other words, while spiritually it was seen as driving away negative influences, physically it also fought invisible threats. Maybe that's why it became such a powerful symbol. Garlic represents active protection. It is not soft. It is not delicate. It confronts. It repels. It marks territory. And maybe that is exactly what the ancient healers understood. Some energies do not need to be calmed. They need to be driven away. Behind the garlic hanging on the door, there is something even deeper. There is the archetype of the ancestral witch, the woman who knew the plants, the cycles of the moon, and the secrets of protection before it was accepted or understood. Many of these women guarded their knowledge in silence, passing down from generation to generation what kept their homes and families protected. In this context, garlic was not just a physical object. It was a symbol of hidden knowledge, of feminine strength, of instinctive protection. And perhaps, by reclaiming these simple rituals today, you are not just cleansing your home. You may be reconnecting with an ancient wisdom that never disappeared. It only fell silent. A tip if you feel heavy energy in your home: make a garlic tea, mix it with water in a bucket, and wipe your house with a cloth. You will feel the lightness immediately. Bay leaf has always been associated with victory, protection, and clarity. In ancient Greece, laurel crowns were placed on the heads of leaders and victors, not only as a symbol of achievement, but as a sign of alignment with strength and wisdom. Over time, bay leaves began to be burned in cleansing and release rituals. It was believed that their smoke helped dissolve negative influences, repetitive thoughts, and cycles that needed to come to an end. Different peoples, same practice. Smoke, purification, protection. But here comes the question almost no one asks. If bay leaf were just an ordinary plant, why would it cross centuries as a symbol of spiritual power? Maybe because the ritual is not in the leaf. It is in the gesture. There is a simple practice, almost intimate. Write your name on a dried bay leaf. Hold it for a few seconds. Take a deep breath. And, in silence, mentally speak with the energy of that plant, not as superstition, but as directed intention. As the leaf burns, you can visualize old cycles dissolving, inherited limiting beliefs, repeated fears, patterns that no longer serve you, not as instant magic, but as a symbolic act of release. And then, in place of what was released, you visualize openness, flow, prosperity, conscious abundance. Because sometimes before attracting something new, you need to clear what is still taking up space. Bay leaf has always represented victory. But perhaps the first victory is internal. Whenever you feel it is necessary, write your name on a dried bay leaf. Mentally speak with the energy of this plant. As you burn this leaf, ask for old or ancestral curses to be broken, so that your life may return to financial abundance and clarity. What really happens when you burn the herb? Here is the part that changes everything. The herb is the vehicle, but the engine is you. Without intention, it's just smoke. With intention, it's energetic direction. When you open doors and windows before the ritual, it's not just symbolic. You are creating flow. Stagnant energy needs movement. When you walk slowly through the space, clockwise, you are creating a cycle. A cycle represents continuity, order, reconstruction. And when you speak, even in a low voice, everything that does not belong in this place leave. You are assuming authority. And that is powerful, because energy responds to direction. Many people report that during the process, they feel chills, sudden warmth, the urge to cry, a strange sense of relief. Why? Because sometimes it's not just the environment that is heavy. It's you. The smoke acts as a bridge between what has accumulated and what needs to be released. And maybe what has been weighing on your home isn't bad luck. Maybe it's old emotional energy that was never cleared. Tonight, you can test it. But if you feel better about it, you can do it during the day as well. You don't need anything extravagant. It can be sage. It can be rosemary. It can be a simple bay leaf. Garlic peels are very effective, but do it differently. Low lighting, silence, conscious breathing. When the smoke rises, don't think of ritual. Think of positioning. You are saying, "This space is mine. Only what vibrates in peace remains here." And observe. Maybe you will feel lighter. Maybe you will sleep better. Maybe arguments will decrease. Or maybe you will realize something even deeper. That what was heavy was you carrying what should have already left. Nature has always offered simple tools. We are the ones who forgot to use them. So burn the herb with awareness. And then tell me, what changed? Did you enjoy learning a little more about these herbs? Tell me in the comments which rituals you usually do, or which one you plan to try. Share your experience with us. Subscribe to our channel. Share this with someone you feel will enjoy the video. I'll see you soon, little witch.